Hello, this is Sandy Rogers. We are at the brand new ACE Dog Sports Training Facility in San Francisco. This video was created to inspire you to perfect your footwork and to show you some very easy ways to have consistent footwork be a part of your current training program. Precision footwork and agility is critical for a few reasons. First, the placement of your steps cue your dog where to go. Second, the number of steps that you take determine if you can make it to your next point of execution or not. This is what setting the line or creating the correct path for the dog on course is all about. Good balance is critical to good footwork, so we're going to start there. You need balance skills to change direction while running, and it is very easy to improve your balance with very little time commitment. We're going to be setting lines by pointing with our toes. It's important that you can balance yourself by keeping your foot straight opposed to having to rotate it to maintain your balance. This simple little rock back and forth step is a good place to start to see if you can point with your toe and weight shift back and forth. This way, when it's time to set the path for the dog, you can maintain your balance and weight shift so that you can change direction easily. Now let's get into some moves that are specific to agility. The swagger is a move in dance that is also the send cue in agility. It is simply pointing with the same side, hand, and foot simultaneously. This move can be taught to any level student and is really fun to do in a whole group. Now we're going to add the jog. So we're jogging along and then doing the swagger move. I'm actually going to call out to the group and try to change up how much time I'm spending in between asking them to run and then do a right, and then run and do a left, run and do a right, and on the way back, I'm really going to try to mix it up and try to catch them out and trick them a little bit so that that move becomes absolutely simple, no-brainer move that they can use anytime they need to on course. Moving right along to the beloved front cross footwork. This footwork needs to be consistent and clean each time you cue your dog to front cross. We're stepping cleanly at the on-course obstacle and coming up nice and clean to the next obstacle. You want to be able to pick up your feet as you turn your body and not get into any nasty twisting of the knees and hips. Here we've got two jumps, and our gang is going to practice creating a nice clean line, a nice clean change of direction with no bowing while accelerating in the middle. We're not stopping in the middle and sending the dog. Here's Wendy as she's going to show us the proper footwork as well as a complete hip rotation, driving to the next on-course obstacle. When you're doing this, change the spacing of the jumps to try to catch yourself out. Again, we're looking for a full hip rotation as well as nice, clean lines. Kathy's going to show us from another angle. What I like about this clip is that Kathy is so thoughtful about pointing nice and straight, coming up with a clean rotation, and getting herself to the next job. You can see that her upper body is a little bit stiff as she's focusing so hard on her footwork. This is why it's important to practice footwork, so that it can be easier than it is for her right now. I want you to notice how quickly Kathy is able to now add in the speed, and pretty soon she's even going to start pumping her arms and running with just a couple of minutes of practicing setting a line and changing in a nice, efficient way. Lisa's going to come out and show us how to get out of dodge a little bit faster with her footwork. I'm using an analogy of grabbing a Scott towel to dash off to clean up a unwanted spill. So I'm grabbing the Scott towel to get myself out of dodge. Here goes Lisa with that in mind, getting herself cleanly rotated, setting a nice straight line. Now it's time to add the dog into the mix after practicing the footwork. The things that I'm concentrating very hard on is to start with my onside foot to point at the jump, to do a full hip rotation, and to maintain as straight of a line as I possibly can. Now we're going to look at the footwork for the pull cue. Notice that I've put myself inside the space of the jump, so I'm leaving the path that the dog is going to travel open for the dog. Too many times folks do their pull cues too slow. They're waiting for the dog, dog waiting for handler, handler's waiting for dog, instead of just getting their hips around to set the line cleanly to the on-course obstacle. It's important that it be a one-step process and that you're not breaking it down into 3 and 4 separate direction changes. You want to show the dog where they're going to end up just as quickly as you can, bringing that onside foot forward to finish the pull cue. Don't leave your leg hanging back while you're walking the course, as your cue for the turn is not completed until the onside leg goes forward. You do not want to twist while you're changing direction. It's important to get the habit of picking up your feet. We aren't getting any younger. Pick your feet up to make the rotation. Lisa's over in the space of the dog, so I'm moving her to the original space where I was, so that when she does her pull cue, the space for the dog is left open. Lisa's setting a nice straight line, and she's also doing a nice full hip rotation. There she bows out a little bit. I'm going to show her that when she took that step sideways, she's now actually pointing the dog in a different direction for a second. Now that we have perfected setting the line from one jump to the other, we're ready for some more advanced line setting. Here I've got a circle of jumps, and I'm working hard to start in exactly the same place on the first jump and do my footwork and hip rotation so that I'm setting a nice clean line to the next on-course obstacle. I'm minding the amount of my hip rotation as well as each and every footstep. This way I'm setting clean and efficient lines in an easy way to practice. During sequence and course walkthroughs is the time for you to rehearse your perfect footwork. Don't walk your courses sloppily and then expect to have precision footwork when you get out there with your dog. Let's talk about this sequence where we're going from the tunnel over the blue jump and to the orange jump. We're going to try to do it with as few footsteps as possible, and we're going to try to set the line for the dog just efficiently as we possibly can. There's lots of things to take into consideration. First is the first point of execution is at send cue. Remember that swagger move? Some dogs will need that cue at a different place, so you're determining your first point of execution based on your training and your dog. You don't want to be sloppy when you're doing your walkthrough and not minding the exact footwork. We're going to do the swagger send cue, rotate back, picking our feet up cleanly, and setting the line perfectly as we come out of the turn cue to the second point of execution, which is the pull at the orange jump. One thing that can happen when dogs come out of the tunnel is that the handle will follow the dog, trying to pick it up at the exit. They've now not set the line correctly. They're going to end up doing a pull at the blue jump and not making their second point of execution, which is the pull at the orange jump. Another thing that will happen is handlers will overshoot their first point of execution. Now they forget what they're doing, so they go into the Hail Mary back pedal, come up, they've not set the line, they're stuck in the pull position, and again, they're not going to make that front cross into a pull on the far side of the orange jump. Here's another thing that can happen typically with dogs coming out of tunnels. The handler moves all the way over to the exit end to pick the dog up. Now they're just delivering them back over the same space that they've already traveled once. This is terribly inefficient, wastes times, and costs cues. Okay, let's take a look at the right way. I'm going to do that nice send cue to the first point of execution, and I'm going to do the front cross steps as efficiently as I can. I'm picking up my feet, and when I come up, my onside foot is setting the line perfectly to the next point of execution. Kathy spent enough time walking the correct footwork that she is now able to easily execute it. That's the point we're trying to make. Now she's going to show us what can go wrong when a handler goes out of the way to pick the dog up, doesn't have a good line, and is now not in as good of a position to end that part of the sequence. Lisa has also practiced correct footwork with her young Labrador, and it's going to be quite easy for her to do the correct timing, the correct footwork, and now be in the perfect position for that end pull cue. Lisa's going to show us some undesirable but very, very common footwork where she overshoots the tunnel and is now run backwards before she's done her front cross. It's a waste of time and very inefficient. In closing, I'm hoping that you are inspired to perfect your footwork cues. Being able to put your feet where you want them to be, when you want them to be there, is a skill that is easy to have. All it takes is a little determination and a little bit of time. Your dog will appreciate the benefits just as much as you will.